When we left Tour 11, Thomas Voeckler had just survived somehow keeping the yellow jersey despite having no business still wearing it. The Frenchman was riding on heart, adrenaline, and the mystical power that the yellow jersey seems to bestow on its wearer. Now came the real test. The Alps awaited. The GC contenders were sharpening their knives, ready to finally put Voeckler out of his misery. But Thomas Voeckler hadn't read the script. Welcome back to Tour 11. Plateau de Belle carries weight in Tour de France mythology. The climb had appeared 3 times before 2011, and each time the stage winner went on to claim yellow in Paris. At almost 16 kilometers with a gradient just below 8%, the final ascent is long and tough enough for the leaders to overhaul any breakaway and settle scores among themselves. With 5 categorized climbs preceding the summit finish, this was designed to be the stage where the podium contenders would finally sort themselves out. The question for most people wasn't whether Voeckler would lose time, it was how much. Everyone expected the Frenchman's fairy tale to end on the slopes of this legendary climb. With 10.6 kilometers remaining, Sandy Cassar had a 1 minute 30-second advantage as he tackled the final climb, aiming to become the first French stage winner of this tour. Behind him, the GC group was about to explode. Andy Schleck finally launched a real attack, his first of the tour that lasted more than 2 seconds. Contador and Evans immediately chased and latched onto his wheel. After days of tentative racing and tactical stalemate, it seemed we were finally getting the battle everyone had been waiting for. And right there with them, more than hanging on, actively following every move, was Thomas Voeckler. The contenders eased up, perhaps shocked by their own aggression. Pierre Rolland, Voeckler's Europcar teammate and lieutenant, kept the pace steady but not fast, ensuring his leader had a smooth ascent. Voeckler felt confident enough to size up the rest of the group, studying who looked strong and who was showing weakness. This wasn't a rider desperately clinging to survival. This is what it looks like when someone is racing like a genuine contender. At 9.8 to go, Schleck attacked again. Rolland and Jelle van den Berg were on him immediately, with Rolland checking back on Voeckler before Evans flew around, refusing to concede even a few bike lengths. Voeckler was on it too, fighting his bike forward with that distinctive, grimacing style that has become his trademark. The lead group contained Andy and Frank Schleck, van den Berg, Evans, Voeckler, and just dancing on the pedals, hidden from immediate sight, was Contador. The defending champion didn't look as fast and snappy as when he was on form, a concerning sign for the Spaniard who needed to make up significant time. They eased up again, allowing the B-tier contenders, Basso, Cunego, Sanchez, to rejoin. Voeckler took the front, his head swiveling like an owl, which let him catch Andy attacking yet again. It was nice to see the young Luxembourgian finally showing aggression. They got a gap briefly, but it was Evans again, the stalwart Australian, doing the chase and bringing them back. Somehow, Cassar was still out front with 7.5k to go, holding a 50-second gap. Andy launched his 4th attack of the climb, and this time, Contador chased, perhaps bluffing strength, or perhaps truly strong. He was caught, and they slowed again. Van den Berg seized this opportunity to launch his own attack. Since he wasn't a Tour favorite, he actually got more than 5 meters to work with. Frank took the front of the contenders group to keep them moving. Then Andy was on the front, swerving from left to right to force someone else to share the workload. Voeckler said screw it and picked up the pace. He wasn't riding like someone happy to just have yellow. He was riding to keep it. Van den Berg had passed Cassar and taken the lead with just 5 kilometers remaining, holding a 20-second advantage. Ivan Basso was on the front of the chase group, riding his tempo. Cunego got dropped, the little prince's dreams of a podium evading him for another year. Van den Berg was flying, becoming the newest Belgian climbing star. With 4k to go, Sanchez attacked, hoping for his second stage win, but Andy followed immediately. Voeckler chased too, bringing the other contenders up before they slowed again. Then Sanchez went once more. This time, he got a real gap. Van den Berg with 20 seconds, then Sanchez 20 seconds back, then the contenders being led by Basso, who was proving himself a higher tier contender than many had thought. The contenders slowed with under a kilometer remaining. They were running out of road to make real time gaps, so any attacks would be largely psychological now. Markers for future battles rather than race-deciding moves. For Vogler, he had secured another stage in yellow tomorrow, defying all expectations once again. Van and Dare took the stage victory, easily the biggest of his career, and Omega Pharma was having an incredible tour. Sanchez took second, flipping their results from Luz Ardennes. Andy attacked yet again as the contenders approached the line, refusing to be caught on the back foot. But it was Vogler chasing him down before anyone else did. Andy would gain maybe a single second. For Vogler, he had a small celebration crossing the line. He kept exceeding all expectations, and he'd given the French something dangerous: hope. Quote, "I would be lying if I said that I expected to stay with the best climbers today. The yellow jersey has given me great confidence, but I'm really surprised to keep it. We'll try and keep it as long as possible, but as I've said, we'll take things one day at a time." Stage 15 looked like an easy day on television. Quote, "It might have seemed like an easy day on the TV, but it was complicated. There was a lot of tension. There were points where we were doing 70 kilometers an hour with tailwind, and there were constant changes of direction. It was a day of real tension and stress. With only one fourth category climb on the menu, this was sprinters territory. We jump ahead to the final 3 kilometers, where Philippe Gilbert attacked on the last ram towards the finish, still hoping for his second stage win and trying to keep his green jersey dreams alive. He was reeled in with 2 kilometers to go, and it officially became a sprint showdown between HTC and Sky. Then, on the left, Omega Pharma squeezed through with Andre Greipel angling for his second win, and Mark Renshaw executed his lead out for Cavendish. Cav waited and waited, and no one could even come alongside him while he wasn't at sprint speed. Renshaw was just that good. When Cavendish finally opened his sprint, Farrar got close, but the Manx missile took home stage win number 4 of this tour. He was starting to enter the conversation of all-time records with the rate he was winning. Cavendish became the first rider in history to win 4 stages in 4 consecutive tours. Stage 16 to Gap was a medium mountain day, with climbing all day long, featuring the Rochette descent where Joseba Boloki memorably crashed in 2003. It took over 100 kilometers for the day's break to finally escape. Despite numerous attempts, there was no consensus until finally a group got away with about 60k remaining, including Marco Mercado, Tony Martin, Andre Grivko, Tor Hushovd, Edvald Bosenhagen, and Ryder Hagedal. With 15 kilometers left on the final climb, Hagedal was leading with Mikhail Ignatiev in tow, holding a small gap over the break. In the peloton, Contador moved on the climb. He was 4 minutes down on yellow. He had ground to make up, and each stage meant he had to take every chance. He looked good, but was reeled back in by Fabian Cancellara working for Leopard Trek and the Schlecks. Evans and Vogler were there as well, so Contador sat up. Sanchez attacked next, also to no avail. It became a pattern every climb. Either no one was fully committing, or we had a rare occurrence where all the top guys were around the same level and form. Andy attacked, brought back, Contador again. Oh, and it was pouring rain. Again. Vogler chased and got Contador, then Andy did too. Evans had to chase, looking momentarily on the back foot with Frank. Meanwhile, at the front of the race, Hagedal was summoning solo, with the 2 Norwegians a few seconds behind. Contador kept the pace high, and Andy responded well, showing his climbing strength. Evans was flying down the descent, the former mountain bike champion, fearless on technical terrain. Andy descended more cautiously, which was his known weakness. The front 3 survived the Boloki corner, while the GC group navigated the descent behind them. With 1.2 kilometers remaining, Ryder Hagedal was leading out, with Bosenhagen second and Hushovd third. Hushovd got the jump and won his second stage of the tour. Quote, "I was thinking that it was a bit like a national championships, which is incredible. We're the only 2 Norwegians in the race, and we're fighting it out for the win." Behind the stage winners, the GC picture was reshaping dramatically. The new standings: Vogler led, Evans second, Frank third. Only 4 seconds separated them. Andy was further down, but still in contention. Quote, "I wasn't expecting so much on the climb. I was prepared for everything on the downhill because it was a little bit dangerous and so on. It's all a bit of a blur right now, but I think it was a good move and a good day." Edvald Bosenhagen bounced back from his second place disappointment at Gap to take victory on stage 17. Already a sprint winner back in the opening week, the Norwegian clinically disposed of his breakaway companions on the stage's final climb before holding his nerve on the sharp descent to finish 40 seconds clear of Bauke Mollema. But the real drama unfolded among the overall contenders on another combination of sharp climbing and treacherous descending. Alberto Contador was on the offensive again, determined to make up ground by throwing himself into the descent in the company of Samuel Sanchez. At one point, the pair threatened to repeat their gains from the previous day over the Schleck brothers. But Cadel Evans led a measured chase to bring the bulk of the contenders, including the Schlecks, back together inside the finishing straight. It was a good day all around for Evans. Not only did he break even with Contador, he narrowed his deficit to Vogler to just 1 minute 18 after the Frenchman misjudged a bend on the descent. Thomas Vogler had ridden off the road and into the front yard of a house on the descent, precisely as breakaway rider Jonathan Hiver had done moments earlier. Although uninjured, Vogler rolled in 27 seconds down on Evans. The race now moved towards two successive summit finishes in the Alps, the Galibier and Alpe d'Huez, where more sizable gaps should finally develop between the overall contenders. Alberto Contador had emerged from the second rest day trying to show form, but the Spaniard wasn't getting the gaps he needed. Vogler might continue to wear yellow, but Evans was a man riding with real authority. The Australian was finally having his moment after years of near misses, showing strength on both climbs and descents. Andy Schleck remained a threat despite his descending weakness. His pure climbing ability was undeniable. Frank remained steady but not spectacular. And through it all, Thomas Vogler kept defying expectations, kept fighting, kept giving France hope that maybe this impossible dream could continue. The mountains had spoken, but they hadn't yet delivered their final verdict. The greatest battles of the 2011 Tour de France are still to come.